By the Bay, I'm David. This is going to be a reading on the governor of Louisiana um, signing off a bill passed by the Republicans there to have a large poster-sized poster of the Ten Commandments posted outside of classrooms. The double card just flipped over in my hands. Because that makes sense, right? Just pulled up a AP News article. So under the new law, all public K-12 classrooms and state-funded universities will be required to display poster-sized displays of the Ten Commandments in large, easily readable font next year. Civil liberty groups plan to sue to block it. State officials are stressing the history of the Ten Commandments, which the bill calls foundational documents of our state and national government. Similar bills requiring the Ten Commandments be displayed in classrooms have been proposed in other states, including Texas, Oklahoma, and Utah. Okay, I'm not going to read any more on this article. I will just say that I think for most of us, we would understand something about separation of church and state. Now, we got the church part here. Are public schools part of the state? Well, if the state's providing funding to the public schools, then yes, they're part of the state. And they're part of the State of the Union. And here's your litmus test. If you were to post the Ten Commandments of the Satanic Church, would people be clutching their pearls and screaming and yelling? If you were to put a similar document of Islam, if they had a version of the Ten Commandments for Islam, would people be upset? If the answer is yes to those, then guess what? You've got a problem. It's really that simple. If you want to take your coinage and take off "In God We Trust" and put "In Allah We Trust," and a third of the U.S. population, half the U.S. population, loses their mud, maybe you need to rethink things. Just saying. Okay, I want to look at the energy around this in Louisiana. I mean, I think this is just one of those flexes to get themselves attention. They know it's not constitutional. They know it's going to get challenged. They know it's going to get blocked. And I'm sure they're going to fundraise off of it. And I'm sure they're going to run on it because this is just another one of those, what was the term they're using for it? It's outrage, social media, type of things. They're not actually passing any laws that help the people. This is all emotion stuff. So, entertainment purposes only. Let's look at this, the energy around this Ten Commandments law just signed in Louisiana. At the foundation of it is the moon card. Howling at the moon, confusion, murky, mystery. Honestly, I just think it's to get people riled up, get people activated. They know it's going to be controversial. They don't care. They know it's illegal. They don't care. This is, again, a flex. Now, can you imagine if the courts, in some ways, I think they want this to go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says, oh, yeah, sure, not a problem. They're trying to force religion on everybody. Crossed with the victory. They got nothing to lose. Yeah, I mean, it's going to cost Louisiana money to fight this in court, but they've already got the money spent on the lawyers anyway, so they're just going to spend it the way they want to spend it, and that's to pontificate. And even if they're defeated, they're just going to keep appealing up till it gets to the Supreme Court. Underneath it all is the Empress. What they should be doing is taking care of their citizens. But they aren't, the elected officials, the governor and these folks, they're not there to help their citizenry. They're there to rule. This is another example of what we've got with the Republicans and their desire to rule. They don't have an interest in representing. In the past, I got the Page of Swords. Somebody came up with this wild-haired idea. It's some MAGA tart or something like that. And they decided that, hey, this is a great idea. This will own the libs. Let's go ahead and pass this. They know legally it doesn't stand a chance. But I think, again, they want to get it to the Supreme Court. Plus, they get a lot of publicity, and they can all stump on their Christian values and double down and triple down on things like that. Current situation is the Five of Cups. They're causing people are emotionally exhausted with this. And I can imagine the civil rights groups can't even believe that this passed and that they have to spend resources fighting this. It would be really nice if the voting public in Louisiana were also disappointed in this. These politicians down there. Things might be... Maybe things aren't as glorious in Louisiana as they're making it out to be. There's a disappointment, kind of a betrayal almost, but a disappointment here. In a nightmarish situation. I'm wondering if something's going to happen out of this that they're not expecting. It could just be that Donald Trump and stuff like that, they're worried about this upcoming election. Now, Louisiana is a deep red state, so I can't imagine that they're worried too much. It's going to be one of the last states that's going to change, going to blue. But there's some concern here, disappointment and anxiety. And the lesson to be learned is the Hanged Man. What they might... it's funny because this guy looks like he has a halo over his head. Jesus is upside down on the cross here. This isn't Jesus' work. This isn't God's work. They're basically throwing themselves under the bus. Under the guise... This is upside down Jesus work is what this is right here. Jesus on the cross, the head's going to be at the top of the cross. And then you're doing God's work. This is the opposite of God's work. I shouldn't be speaking for Jesus. He doesn't pay me to be a spokesman for him. But I would like to think that his opinion on the matter would fall along the lines of, we came down to this planet with free will. So... what's better, for you to make a free will choice to follow the teachings of Christ, or for you to be forced to? If you're being forced to, that's not free will. And then that's going to build resentment. And people are going to push back because nobody likes to be told what to do or how to do it. At least most people don't. But, conservatives, they like to be told what to do by somebody who they consider to be their better. Somebody who's wearing the same uniform as them, has a higher rank than them, they'll fall right in line. Heaven forbid somebody like me tell them what to do. They'll lose their mud. Hangman, this is just against the teachings of Christ. This is a bad situation that they're doing here. Yeah, go figure. Outcome's going to be justice. Of course, this is going to be fought in the courts. And I don't see how this wins in the courts, but we will ask, because it's not, there's going to be stays on this, and there's going to be court rulings, and there's going to be appeals, and they're going to want to run this thing up to the Supreme Court, especially when the Supreme Court's got a 6-3 conservative majority, and this court, in its current composition, seems to be hell-bent on ruling in favor of the most egregious, archaic, and Neanderthalic type of cases, taking us back decades, if not centuries. Hello, Elle. How are you doing? The kitten has come to visit. She's just woken up from her nap, which probably means she's hungry. Should I give you some food? Hang on for a second. Let me go get her some food. Okay, the cat's been fed. We'll see if she bothers eating. She has a notion. Yep, she's sitting down to eat her crunchy kibbles. You might hear her crunching away. They're not exactly quiet. Okay. Civil liberties groups will be suing. Will they be successful? I mean, I know the answer is yes, but let's look at their success rate, the energy around this lawsuits of the civil liberties groups. Seven of Swords. You're stealing our rights. That's going to be the argument. People have the right to not be subjected to other people's religions. You can't force it on a state case. You're taking away our rights. That's a freedom of religion type of thing. Cross with the Six of Coins. The state's trying to say, oh, well, the state's based on Christian values and that this is a Christian nation. It's not. This is some wacko talking point that the right keeps forcing down everybody's throats. They just feel like, and this has worked for Trump, if you just repeat the same thing over and over again, the unintelligent MAGA folks believe it to be true, especially if they want it to be true. So you can lie to them and say, yeah, this is a Christian nation. We were founded on Christian principles. Nothing could be further from the truth. But these folks, they don't bother thinking. They just want to believe what somebody tells them is the truth. And they will happily give up their rights. And the thing, why would you, and you might ask yourself, well, why would you want to have religion? How is that helping the right? Religion is one of the great controllers of the world. And always has been. You think about it, the church, most organized religions start off with these great intentions. They're going to give people spiritual tools and help them on their journey, give them hope in a world of toil. And what happens is people will follow that religion and it will build up a following. And with that following, you can tithe to that church and you can build up wealth and influence. Narcissistic sociopaths are attracted to wealth and power and control. And so they work their way into there. So what ends up happening invariably is that these churches or these religions start getting corrupted by sociopaths who want the wealth and the power and the control. The church, in medieval times and before that, they were as powerful as kings. You had the kings and you had the church, and that's where your two main power structures here. And the church can get people to do things. Oh, are you a true believer? Then you're going to do this. They will tell their flock what to do, and the flock does it. So it's about control. In the past, you got the Four of Swords. Asking about the ACLU. They're going to get this thing paused. As they're making this argument about stealing people's rights and trying to control them. There's going to be fundraising too, obviously. They're going to get this thing paused. Absolutely will get this thing paused. There's no way that that they will find an appeals court judge, of some federal judge or state judge that will pause this. Yep. And then we're going to have the big court fights. The government versus the courts. And the government of Louisiana is going to lose consistently throughout all these lawsuits. But mind you, their ultimate goal is not to get to the Louisiana Supreme Court. Their ultimate goal is to get to the U.S. Supreme Court, because that's where it's going to end. Or it could end in the state Supreme Court if the U.S. Supreme Court opts not to hear it. The overarching energy is the burden. It's going to be a long slog to get there, because both sides are going to be fighting this. They're going to be spending a lot of money. The lesson to be learned, though, is the truth. I like that. The truth, when we had the mystery card underneath there, the sun exposes the moon. So the lesson to be learned is the truth. The truth is going to prevail in this. I know that they're trying to get it up to the Supreme Court, or at least to the state Supreme Court, and get a victory there. I don't think they're going to get it because the Constitution and this country is founded on religious freedom. Didn't these guys watch Schoolhouse Rock as a kid? The outcome is the Eight of Swords. there's going to be victories and there's going to be setbacks. But ultimately, you cannot fight it and have your rights taken away and be victimized for it. You could be oppressed. I chuckle because it seems like modern day Christians and COVID deniers, mask wearers and such, complain about their civil rights being violated. It's like they want to be oppressed. White males are being oppressed in this country. Whites are being oppressed. Christians are being oppressed. Are you kidding me? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Again, Eight of Swords. You can be a victim if you want to be, or you can fight you can fight. The ACLU is going to be fighting this. Let's see if this would make it to the Supreme Court, because that's ultimately where we want to go. Now, the other thing is, it might take a few years for it to reach the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, a few years from now, might not be a 6-3 conservative majority. It might be 9 people still. It might be a 5-4 liberal majority. And somehow I don't think Louisiana is going to want to take their case to the Supreme Court if that's it. Maybe they went to the state Supreme Court, but I'll bet you the ACLU will take it to the Supreme Court at that case. All right. She's going to jump up on my chair. Okay. How will the Louisiana State Supreme Court rule on this? Should it get to them? Little 4-carder on Louisiana State Supreme Court. 4 of Swords. Contemplation, putting it to sleep, putting it to bed. 4 of Wands. I think they will take the case if it comes up. There's that Moon card. The mystery and the confusion. They're going to solve once and for all in Louisiana how things work here. They want to hear arguments on both sides with what's going on. Making their ruling. 2 of Wands. Looking towards the future here. To me, this is just... To me, it's like they kill it. They put this to bed. I don't think it's going to make it to the U.S. Supreme Court. I don't think it gets that far. I think the Louisiana Supreme Court puts this thing to bed, which then means that do the Republican lawmakers take it to the U.S. Supreme Court? And we can review on that. If they don't, you can take that as a sign that the Supreme Court has probably changed hands and is in a much more liberal bent that's maybe interested in protecting people's religious freedoms. Doesn't that sound like it should be something that the Republicans would want? Protecting your freedoms, protecting your rights. For the party that talks about small government and states' rights and people's rights and your Second Amendment rights and stuff like that, they sure are eager to take away other people's rights. Yeah, freedom of religion as long as it's worshiping the God I tell you to worship. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Keep your hands off my guns. Don't you try to be regulating my firearms. I want my bump stocks. U.S. Supreme Court. Will they take on this case? The devil. If it's a conservative one, they will. Even if it's a liberal one, I'm sure they will. They may want the final say on this. Yeah. If it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court, they may take it just to put this thing to rest. And we got the truth underneath this. So this is one of those toxic cases that folks are bringing up there. It's funny. We want God, the 10 Commandments everywhere, but it's not for higher energy, not for a godlike thing. It's for devilish reasons. No, it's not for Christ-like reasons that they're doing this. This is for anti-Christ-like reasons. So will the Supreme Court take this case up? If it gets brought up to them, and it may very well be yes, they will, and they're going to put this thing to bed. And the sun card is underneath it, which means there's going to be truth. I like this. In the past is that Eight of Swords. So maybe, whether it's the liberals or the conservatives feel like they're unfairly trapped with the state Supreme Court's ruling, they want to take it to the U.S. Supreme Court. Page of Swords. The same idiot that came up with this idea that this is a good idea is going to come up with their same lame arguments to the Supreme Court in justifying keeping this. And the Supreme Court really only has to decide, separation of church and state. Is this fair to anybody who's not a Christian? How will Jewish people take to this? How will Muslims take to this? How will Buddhists take to this? How will atheists or agnostics take to this? How will practitioners of the flying spaghetti monster take to this? The lesson to be learned is the Queen of Cups. They're going to put a lid on it. This is just outside the bounds of things. Outcome is the four of coins. It's even if the court's conservative. I mean, if they're conservative, they may go with it. But it's basically we're holding on to our democracy here. We're holding on to our core values. We're not going to force people to do something they don't want to do. That's just not right in this world. You want to worship God? Worship God. You want to practice Catholicism or Christianity? Go for it. It's not for everybody, nor should you force people to do stuff like that. It's going to be in all the schools. What about, anybody who's not a Christian? Should they be forced to see that? It's where I see this going is kind of like when they're flying flags or they put up religious statues at state courthouses. And there's like an equal equality or fairness doctrine where, okay, well, if you're going to put up a Christian thing, then the Satanic Church gets to put up something too. And that's the whole reason why the Satanic Church is there. It's not to worship Satan. It's to basically provide on the surface, a very distasteful choice. It's like, well, if you're going to say that, Christians could put up the God thing, then we could put up statues of Beelzebub. I would encourage you to take a look. You can Google it. You can look at like the atheists' 10 Commandments and read through them. They're amazing. They're probably better than the actual 10 Commandments. They're modern. And it's the basic same gist. No, respect people. That's literally the running theme on it. I look through that. I look through these various versions of it, and they're fine. You don't need to have this. But again, this is about control. This is about forcing your values on other people, and that's what America is not supposed to be about. If you don't like that, you can move to a country that does that has national religions. Why don't you move to Italy? Heck, you got the Pope right there. You got the Catholic Church right there. Go for it, man. Why not? You can go to any one of Central American or South American countries. Heavy Christian populations down there. Go for it. You'll love it. Low cost of living. We'll let it go. Thank you very much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate it. Check out Tarot of the Seven Seas or Twin Tarot with Gary and David, my other two channels. Links in the description and the community page. And I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.